In the last video lecture, we were discussing about split ring commutator plus brush arrangement to convert the alternating EMF that is generated in the armature windings of a DC machine into DC quantity. Okay, so we had seen that as shown in this figure, we had seen that let us say that we look at this um, particular coil side A, then it is connected to B1 initially for some time for 180 degrees, and then the same coil A gets connected to B2 for the rest of the 180 degrees. So these are the transition phases where it goes from one brush to the other. Okay, so you can see that during the transition it is connected to both the brushes, and then for 180 degrees this coil A is connected to brush B1, and for the rest of the 180 degrees this coil A is connected to brush B2. So thereby basically this commutator, split ring commutator plus brush arrangement helps to um, switch the conductors in the external circuit every 180 degrees. Okay, thereby you get an only the positive half cycles at the output, even though the actual voltage that is generated in the rotor conductors are alternating in nature. Okay, so with this so we got a good understanding of how an alternating EMF generated in the DC generator is getting converted into a DC quantity at the output terminals using this mechanical arrangement. Now let us look at the same split ring plus commutator arrangement for the case of a motor. Okay, DC machine working as a motor. Okay, in which case the brushes will carry or will deliver the uh, current that is being supplied from an external source to the rotor, and um, because this is a DC machine, we can expect that the current that is injected from the external source is going to be DC, whereas in the conductors we will see that this DC current gets converted into an AC current. Okay, so the process is reverse here as compared to a generator. Here a DC is being supplied and it is getting converted into AC. So we can say that the conversion is from DC to AC. So it is an uh, inverter. Inversion process is being done. Okay, um, it is getting inverted. Okay, so earlier it was rectified, now it is getting inverted. Okay, so let us try to understand how this happens. To understand this, let us take a two-pole DC machine again, but here we would like to understand a few more concepts related to the actual DC machine. So we will consider more number of slots and more number of conductors in the rotor. Okay, so you can see here that we are having instead of two slots which we had earlier, we have four slots. You can see that here there is a slot 1, slot 2, slot 3 and slot 4. So there are four slots, and in each of these slots you now have two sets of conductors. Okay, you have two sets of conductors in each slot. Okay, now you need to understand that each of these conductors are a part of a full pitched winding, a full pitched n-turn coil. Okay, so if we consider just one of these, that is, let us say that we are talking about slot 1, and in slot 1 there are two sets of coils, and we are just talking about one set of coil. Then this one set of coil which I have pointed out here can be imagined to be something like this. So you have a coil, it goes all the way along the rotor, in the periphery of the rotor, and then at the end it has to make a turn, so it will have some overhang portion. And because these are all full pitched coils, you can, and this is a two pole machine, you can expect that this coil will be coming back from the back side to the front through another slot which is placed 180 electrical degrees away from this. Okay, because it is a full pitched coil. Okay, because it is a full pitched coil, it will be 180 electrical degrees away, and because this is a two pole machine, the mechanical angle is also 180 degrees. Okay, if it had been a four pole machine, then it would have been just 90 degrees in the mechanical angle, whereas 180 degrees in the electrical angle. Whereas here we are considering just a two pole machine, so the mechanical and electrical angles are the same. So if you recall, we have seen that electrical angle is P by 2 times the mechanical angle. So here P is equal to 2, so electrical and mechanical angles are the same. Okay, so you can expect this conductor, which is housed in slot 1, to return through another slot which is 180 electrical or mechanical degrees apart. So you can expect this overhang, and then it will come back after 180 degrees. Okay, so here in this drawing, if you see, 180 degrees extends all the way to slot 3. So the return path for this conductor or this coil is in slot 3. Okay, so if current is entering here, as it is marked as X or cross in this slot 1, so it is current is entering here. So current would have gone all the way, and then it would have returned back through this. So we can expect a dot here. So that is why you see a dot here. Okay, so here one thing you should notice is you can find that there is a line here which connects 1 to 3. Okay, it goes like this and then it comes back like this. Okay, this is how it is indicated in this cross-sectional view. So what they do is they just represent for the conductors, for each of these two conductors, they just represent this portion, because this is what you will see in the cross-sectional view. So this is marked as 1, and in 3 you have a dot, so representing these two conductors, and then this back portion which you see here is shown as like this. Okay, so that is what you see here. Okay, so that is what you see here. To represent that there is an interconnection between them through the back side, they are just showing it like this. Okay, that is how you will have to interpret this cross-sectional view drawing. Okay, so some of these lines might be shown as thick lines, and others might be shown as dotted lines, but anyhow this is the idea. Okay, so now with that idea, let us try to see how these windings have been interconnected. Okay, so let us look at the windings in a little bit more detail. So let me erase these things, and then we will, now we have got some basic understanding that there are 4 slots, and each slot has 2 coils sides. Okay, 2 sets of coils. So because you need one coil from one slot and another coil side from other slot to make one n-turn winding, you can expect that. So there are totally you have 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 8 cross or dots that you see. So 2 of them together make one n-turn coil, okay, which I had drawn now. So this one n-turn coil requires 2 of them. So we have totally 8, that means 4 n-turn coils are present in this drawing. Okay, and you need to remember that each of these coils which we are drawing themselves are made of several turns. Okay, so like we had seen earlier, they are made of several turns of the winding. So they are drawn like this. They are n-turn coils. Okay, so they have n number of turns. Okay, so they each of them are n-turn coils. So this is what you get. Okay, so we have 4 n-turn coils which are placed in these slots in this particular drawing. Okay, so with that understanding, let us try to see how these connections have been windings have been made. Okay, so there are different winding arrangements for any machine, and um, in case of DC machines, there are two types of winding arrangements. We will come to it a little later. We may not discuss in detail. However, we will first analyze this winding drawing which we see here. Okay, so if we look at this, we find that from the external source, we are having a current which is entering here and then which is leaving here. Okay, so A is the point of entry and B is the point of exit for the current from the external DC source. Okay, because we are now looking at a motor, we can expect that power is being supplied from an external source. Okay, now the current which is entering here enters into A and then enters through the brush, it enters segment 1. So you can see that there are 4 segments in the commutator. So the commutator here has 4 segments. The brushes are only 2 in numbers. Okay, but the number of segments of the commutator has increased because there are 4 slots, there are 4 segments. Earlier there were only 2 slots and there were only 2 segments, segment 1 and segment 2, because 2 slots were there. Okay, whereas here now in the present case there are 4 slots and so there are 4 segments. Okay, so now let us see what happens. So the current enters through A into segment 1, and in segment 1 you can see that the current splits into 2 paths. Okay, the current splits into 2 paths. One goes to the top conductor of slot 1. Okay, let us call this as top conductor and this is bottom. Then the current, one of the paths of the current is to the top conductor of slot 1 and the other one goes to the bottom of slot 2. Okay, so the current which is coming in has 2 paths, and if you look at this, the total current here, it is shown as IA, and it enters here, splits into 2, and then from top conductor of slot 1, it goes all the way till the end. So it is a full pitched coil, so it will go back and then go to slot 3. Okay, so from here it is going to bottom conductor of slot 3, and if you see here, this current is given to be IA by 2. So the current is only half the current is going through this conductor, and if you look at this slot 2's conductor, it takes from slot 2, the current goes all the way through the conductor and then through the back side it goes to slot 4. Okay, and this current is also given as IA by 2. Okay, so what happens, the total current which is supplied from outside is indicated as IA or the armature current, and this armature current splits itself into 2. Okay, that is, it takes 2 parallel paths. From here it takes 2 parallel paths. So let us try to trace the paths. The first path is, it enters at A and then it goes to commutator segment 1, and then from commutator segment 1 it goes to top slot 1's top conductor. Okay, so it has gone to top slot 1's top conductor, and then from there it goes all the way to slot 3's bottom conductor. Okay, 3's bottom conductor. Then from there it goes to segment 2, commutator segment 2, and then through commutator segment 2 it reaches top of slot 2, slot 2's top conductor, and then from there it goes all the way to bottom of slot 4 bottom, and then from there it goes to segment 3, commutator segment 3, and then from there it goes out again. Okay, so it goes to B. Okay, so when from A you get IA and from B you get out IA, but from C1 it splits into IA by 2 only. So from here to here it is only IA by 2. Okay, so this is one parallel path. So this is one parallel path, and there is another parallel path where for that other parallel path also the current enters through A only and comes to segment 1, but thereafter it is going to take a different path. Let us trace that also. So if you look at this, current enters through A, it comes to segment 1 and then it takes another path. Okay, so segment A is there, sorry, segment 1, it comes to segment 1, then it goes to bottom of slot 2. Okay, slot 2's bottom, and then from there it goes to, because it is a full pitched coil, it has to travel 180 degrees, so it goes to top portion of 4. Okay, 4 top, and then from there it goes to segment 4, C4, that is commutator segment 4. Then from there it goes to slot 1 bottom. Okay, 1 bottom, then it has to take 180 degrees, so it goes to 3. Okay, it goes to 3's top. Okay, top of 3, and then it goes to segment 3. It goes to segment 3 and it goes to B. Okay, here again it is only IA by 2 and IA by 2. Okay, so you can see that from C1 it is taking 2 paths. Similarly from C3, so 2 paths come and merge at C3. Okay, from 4B and 2T it comes to C3. Okay, so there are 2 parallel paths for the current. So if we try to put it in a schematic form or a circuit form, you will find that the current enters through A, then there is a brush. Okay, and then so this is current IA, and then it goes to 2 different sets of windings. One is 1 top and 3 bottom. Okay, so there is one winding, and you need to remember that this winding is an N-turn full pitch coil, so you can assume that it goes to an N-turn full pitched coil. Okay, it goes to an N-turn full pitched coil, so you can expect it to be something like this. Okay, it goes through one N-turn full pitched coil, which is 1 top and 3 bottom. Okay, 1 to 3, 1 slot 1, it begins, this N-turn coil starts at slot 1 and ends at slot 3. At 1 it is a top coil and at 3 it is a bottom coil. Let us not bother about it, we will just call it as 1 3 for simplicity. Then from 3 it goes to commutator 2, and then it goes to second slot and fourth slot. Okay, so it connects to second slot, and then from there it goes to fourth slot. So we can say that there is another N-turn coil, full pitched coil, so it goes to another N-turn full pitched coil. Okay, so it goes to another N-turn full pitched coil, which is starting from 2 to 4. Okay, 2 and 4, and then it ends. Okay, it comes out to B, and here the current is IA again. Okay, so here it is only IA by 2. Okay, similarly the other portion is connecting to 2 and 4, so this current goes to slot 2 and 4, so that is again an N-turn full pitched coil, so you can expect something like this. Okay, so this is 2 and 4, and here again there is another N-turn full pitched coil from 1 and 3. Okay, so you have this 4 connects to 1, and then it goes through a full pitched coil again, N-turn full pitched coil, and then it comes back and connects to B. Okay, so this is how the coil arrangement is. So the incoming current takes 2 parallel paths, each carrying a current of IA by 2 roughly. If the windings are all of the same length and all that exactly matching, then the current will split equally. Let us assume that as of now that they are all symmetrical and the current split up equally. So through a brush it enters, and then the currents split equally and go through two sets of series connectors. So there is a parallel connection, two parallel paths are there, and then two series paths are there in each of these parallel paths. Okay, so there are two series connected windings, and each are n-turn winding. So this is an n-turn winding, this is an n-turn winding, this is an n-turn winding, and this is another n-turn winding. Okay, you need to remember that each n-turn winding itself has 2n number of conductors, because the each n-turn has two coil sides. If you take a one turn of a coil, then you know that this is one coil side, this is another coil side. We have seen this earlier. So when we talk about n turns of a coil, we are talking about basically 2n conductors. Okay, 2n conductor coil sides. Okay, 2n coil sides. So one turn has two coil sides, two coil sides, and so this n turn has 2n coil sides. So totally there are 2n into 4, so 8n coil sides or 8n conductors which are connected in some fashion to get this thing. Okay, so this is one aspect that we need to know, that in the actual DC machine the connections are made in some series and parallel arrangement, and that together gives rise to some voltage. Okay, either it gives rise to some voltage in case of DC generator, or the current will pass through this kind of a winding in case of a DC motor. Okay, so you need to understand that these parallel paths, different parallel paths, help in sharing the current. Okay, these parallel paths help in current sharing, so that for a given size of a conductor, if you have more parallel paths, you can increase the current rating. Okay, and the series connections can help in achieving higher and higher voltages, because for one n-turn coil you have already derived a certain voltage, uh, voltage. You know that the EMF induced for one n-turn coil is given by this expression. So if you have another set of n-turn coil and you connect them in series, then the voltage, total voltage will add up. So you can expect that the total voltage will go up. Okay, anyhow, you need to remember that when you are adding two AC voltages, they will add up vectorially. Anyhow, we will come to that series, means how the voltages add up, we will see a little later. So as of now, you can understand that if you want to increase the voltage level, then we need to series connect the coils, and connecting having parallel paths will increase the current rating. Okay, so with this idea, let us now look at what happens when the rotor rotates. Okay, so this first drawing is the same as what we were discussing now. So the current enters and there are four commutator segments, and you have a certain connection, interconnection. Now when let us say that this rotates by 45 degrees, then this first one slot will come here. Similarly, this slot 2 will go here, and so on. Okay, so when you rotate the rotor by 45 degrees, this is what happens. So this is if you consider this as the reference 0 degrees, then this will be 45 degrees and this will be 90 degrees from that. Okay, what I mean is, from if you take this first drawing to be a reference of 0 degrees, then after 45 degrees is what you get, and after 90 degrees is what you get this. Okay, so you can see that again, one to start with was here, and one moved to this point after 45 degrees, and then again it moves to this point after another 45 degrees. Okay, so likewise it is rotating. Okay, there are a few observations that you can make here. So if you look at this segment arrangements, always the brushes are in stationary. Okay, so brushes are stationary, so they remain in the same position, and usually these brushes are always kept along the status axis. Okay, north south, north status north is here, south is here. So the central line connecting these two is the axis for this north south pole. So this magnetic axis is called the direct axis. This magnetic axis of the stator is called the direct axis, and uh, the one which is perpendicular to that, that is here, is called the quadrature axis. Quadrature means at 90 degrees, so this is called the quadrature axis. Okay, at 90 electrical degrees to it is the quadrature axis. Okay, so now usually these brushes are always kept along the direct axis. So there is a reason for that. So keeping it along the direct axis helps in certain way. Okay, let us see what happens. So if you keep the incoming brush here, you can expect that always the conductors on this side, because this is connected to whichever segment is appearing here. So the current will enter through this and then split through these two. So the current will always enter into the coils in these locations. Okay, that is, current will always enter here, or you can say that the conductors here will always be X marked. Okay, that is, the current is going into the coil, okay, at this corner. That is because you have the brush at the same location, fixed to be at the same location. So here is the location where you have the brush where the current is entering. Okay, so always it will go through some segment which is nearby and then split into two, and then it will enter the conductor here, or this will go into the coil at these two locations. Okay, so the um, coils here, if you see in all these drawings, you find that the coil on this side will have X marks always. Okay, you can see in all these drawings that the current enters here, splits into two, and goes into the coil and into the coil here. So always these coils, if you analyze in the same way in which we had seen earlier, you will find that the coils on the right hand side, that is under the south pole of the coils which are under the south pole of your stator will always have X mark, and the other side will always have the dot mark. Okay, so because of this you will find that the for the rotor, this will always be the north pole and this will always be the south pole. Okay, so irrespective of the rotor rotation, because of the commutator, in a DC motor or even in a DC generator, you will find that the north and south poles of the rotor is always fixed even though the machine is rotating. Okay, this happens because of the commutator plus brush action. Okay, because the commutator is brush is fixed to one location which is along the direct axis of the stator, you find that this enforces the north and south poles to be fixed along the quadrature axis. Okay, so now this helps in a way, because we had already seen that the rotation of the DC motor, in case of a DC machine which is operating as a motor, the motor rotates because this north south pole here tries to align along this north south pole. Okay, so that is what helps in this rotor rotating. Okay, now as the rotor rotates, the north pole and south pole of this rotor does not change its location, because as the motor starts to rotate, the commutator action makes sure that even though the conductors have moved to a new location, the north-south poles of the rotor remains at the same line, in the same line. Okay, so irrespective of the motor's rotation. Okay, so thereby this north-south pole of the rotor lies fixed to one location. So this helps in the continuous rotation of the rotor. Okay, in case this north-south pole had moved along with the rotor motion, then we couldn't have had a continuous rotation, because once the two magnets get aligned, the rotor rotation will stop. Okay, whereas here that does not happen, because the commutator helps in maintaining the north south pole along a particular direction in case of a DC machine. Okay, so this is an important aspect of the commutator plus brush arrangement when it comes to the motor operation. Okay, so we can say that for a generator operation, the purpose of the commutator plus brush is to convert the AC quantity into a DC quantity, whereas in case of a motor, it helps in keeping the magnetic axis of the rotor aligned to a particular direction which is in quadrature to the um, status magnetic axis. Okay, so this is one important thing that you will have to know. Second is that at 45 degrees, let us try to see what happens. Okay, so if you see at 45 degrees, you will find that what happens is that the current that is coming in, uh, the current is coming in, and then it takes two paths, one through this and one through this. Okay, so it takes two paths. um, let us try to trace the first path. So the current IA comes in, then goes to this segment 1. Actually this brush is at the is shorting segment 1 and segment 4. Now you can see that the brush is at the uh, common point between 1 and 4. So there is an insulation material in between, but nevertheless this is connecting both 1 and 4. So it is actually shorting segments 1 and 4. So now the current enters here, goes through segment 1 as one path, and it goes through segment 4 as another path. So the current going through segment 1 comes to top of uh, coil 1 conductor, slot 1's conductor top, and then it goes to 180 degrees, it has to go, so it goes to slot 3, and then it comes to segment 2, and then from segment 2 as usual it goes to the top of conductor 2, slot 2, and then from there it goes to slot 4. Okay, bottom conductor. But like I told, this carbon brush is shorting segment 4 and segment 1. So because this conductor 2 and conductor 4 are connected to segment 2 and 4, these two also get shorted. Okay, let me show you again clearly. So I think you will be able to trace the path from IA through conductor 1 and etc. I will just point out that the fact that this conductor 2 is conductor 2 is conductor sorry um, sorry conductor 2 is connected to segment 2, and conductor 4 is connected to segment 3, and this brush shorts 3 and 4. So it actually shorts 2 and 4, conductors 2 and 4. Okay, similarly the other set of conductors in 4 and 2 gets shorted through the brush on the other side. Okay, so essentially what happens is that at the transition phase, the voltage across one of the set of conductors, two sets of conductors, becomes 0 because as we know from our earlier discussion, the voltage of the coil is sinusoidal in nature, and at 0 degrees and at 180 degrees the voltage has to be 0. Now if you see, this coil location is at 0 degrees and this is at 180 degrees, so these coils will go through a 0 voltage. So that essentially happens by the shorting of these commutators through this brush arrangement. So you can essentially say that this gets shorted, and similarly this also gets shorted at 45 degrees. You can again go back and analyze and see this. You will find that when you trace the path, you will find that coil 2 and 4, these ends get shorted through the brushes. Okay, one is brush 2 and one is brush 1. Okay, so you will see that brush B and A. Okay, we will see, say, brush B and this is brush A. Okay, these essentially short these conductors. So the voltage across this is going to be 0. Similarly, the voltage across is going to be 0. But still, you should know that the current splits IA by 2 in each side, and it comes till here, and then it goes through this short and then goes here. Okay, similarly on the other side also, the current IA by 2 goes through this short, goes through this conductors, and then comes out through this. Okay, so it is only one of the coils voltage is 0, but the currents in the two paths still remain Ia by 2. Okay, so the currents split into half like earlier, but only thing is that the voltage in one of the conductors is going to be 0. Okay, then after 45 degrees you can analyze and see what happens to this different coils. I do not want to repeat the same thing, but only one thing I would like you to observe is that if you look at these three drawings, you can see that initially the currents in this conductor in slot 2 are going inside the current goes into this coil, and then the current in this coil becomes 0, and then thereafter at this position the current in the same slot 2 in the conductors are coming out. Okay, here it is into the coil, here it is 0 because it is getting shorted. The conductors are bypassed through the commutator, and here the current is out of the plane. Okay, so that means the current has changed its direction from the time it was here to the time it is here. Okay, so the current was positive if you assume, then it comes to 0 here during this time and then goes to negative during this time. So you can say that even though the current that is coming to the brush is all in the same direction, that is it is DC, inside the conductor the current actually becomes AC, okay, through the commutator action. Okay, so as the rotor is rotating, you find that the current becomes 0 and then becomes negative. It is positive, 0, negative. So this cycle keeps repeating. Okay, so this way the commutator also helps in converting from DC to AC. So it is called, it is doing an inverter action in case of a motor. Okay, so that is what I have listed here. So you have multiple series parallel paths for the conductors. Rotor poles are stationary, so that continuous torque is there, and brushes along D axis and armature MMF along Q axis, that is the rotor's MMF is along Q axis. Current in the armature is alternating. Okay, then like we saw, there are many different combinations of parallel and series possible, and in DC machines there are two types of winding arrangements. We are not going to see the winding arrangements in detail. Let us just know that there are two types of winding arrangements. One is called the lap winding and other is called the wave winding. In case of lap winding, you have total number of parallel paths to be equal to the total number of poles. Okay, if it is a 2-pole machine, it is just 2 parallel paths. If it is a 4-pole machine, it is going to be 4 parallel paths. Whereas in case of a wave winding, irrespective of the number of poles, the number of parallel paths will always be 2. Okay, so these are the two different winding arrangements. So if you are given a problem and told that it is a lap winding or wave winding, accordingly you can assume the number of parallel paths. Okay, so now let us look at a few more details. So here what you see here is a representation assuming that there are 4 parallel paths. Okay, if we assume that there are 4 parallel paths, you have the brushes here like shown here. There are 2 brushes to take out the voltage. Okay, this is the terminal voltage, so it is marked as VT, which is the external supplied voltage in case of a motor, or it is the external voltage available, generated voltage available at the external terminals in case of a generator. So now, depending upon the number of parallel paths, you have a number of lines like this, and in each case the voltages are all same. Okay, because if you look at this, you have 2 sets of n-turn coils in series, so there will be a certain voltage. You can expect the similar voltage in case of the other parallel path also. Because they are all parallel connected, their voltages need to be, they have to adjust their voltages to be the same. Okay, so now let us have an ideal assumption that they are all equal. So all parallel paths will have a generated voltage which is equal, and I have additionally shown some resistances to indicate the winding resistance. Okay, because this is all DC circuits, we need to have only resistive elements here in the model. So we have 4 resistances which are connected each in this series. Okay, so this is basically the model for your DC machine. Okay, now let us simplify this model. So if you make a Thevenin circuit equivalent of this, the open circuit voltage will be equal to this E itself, because all are in parallel. When there is no current flowing, that is the circuit is open, then you can expect E to be the voltage. So the Thevenin equivalent voltage is E, and let us call it as EA, or the armature voltage, and you have the brushes indicated here. And then if you find out the Thevenin resistance by shorting all these voltages, then you will have all the resistances in parallel coming in parallel. So you have Rp by 8, assuming all parallel resistances are of same value. You have Rp by 8, A, where A is the number of parallel paths. Okay, A represents the number of parallel paths. This small a is nothing but number of parallel paths. In this case, there are 4 parallel paths, means it is Rp by 4. Okay, so that will be the equivalent resistance, Thevenin resistance. So this represents the equivalent circuit of a DC machine. This is the equivalent circuit of a DC machine. And to indicate the field which is present on the stator, we represent it separately. Okay, like this. So whenever you are drawing a DC machine, this is the equivalent circuit that you will consider. There is a voltage here, and a resistance is connected in series. Okay, very simple. Now let us look at what happens when we connect these sets of coils in series. Okay, so we find that let us look at this drawing itself to gain some understanding. So here, if you see, the coils 1 and 3 are connected in, let me pick out a different color. So coils 1 and 3 form one set, and to it is series connected. It is series connected to 2 and 4. Okay, so 1 and 3 make one set of winding, and 2 and 4 make another set of winding, and coil, n-turn coil. So 1 and 3 together form one set of n-turn coil, and 2 and 4 make another set of n-turn coil, and they both are series connected. So these two are series connected. Okay, now if you look at these coils, this set and this set, they differ by an angle of 90 degrees. Okay, you see this angle is 90 degrees. Angle between these two sets of windings is 90 degrees. Okay, so as the coil rotates, you know that, let us say that we are considering only one set of winding, then we know that it has a voltage which is sinusoidal in nature, and through commutation process you will get it rectified and it will appear like this. Okay, now if you take another set of coil which is also rotating at the same speed, but it starts at 90 degrees away from this, you can expect that its voltage will be same as this, but it is 90 degrees away. Okay, you can expect that the other coil which is placed 90 degrees away from this first coil will have a voltage which is similar to this, but starts 90 degrees later. Okay, so it will have like this. Okay, 90 degrees later. So this also gets rectified. So you can expect its voltage to be like this. Okay, so if we assume two sets of coils which are placed 90 degrees away, you can expect this brown colored waveform and this orange colored waveforms to be the voltages of those two windings. You can see that they are away from 90 degrees, but both are rectified sine waves, okay, which are moved by 90 degrees. Now they are series connected, so at every point they will get added. Okay, so at this point, if you add them, this is 0 plus maximum, so it will be this blue waveform. Okay, similarly at this point, if you get they get added, it will be this. Okay, similarly at all other points, if you connect it, you get this blue colored waveform. Okay, now you can see that the average for when you had this individual orange colored or brown colored waveform, the DC quantity was very far away from the actual instantaneous values, whereas now when they get added, there is less of ripple or variation in voltage. As you move from one end to another, the variation in voltage is very less, and they are closer to the total average value. Okay, similarly if you have three sets of coils, then each will be equidistant placed, so it will be 60 degrees, because total angle should be 180 degrees, so it is 60 degrees away from each other. So you will have three sets of voltages like this getting added up. So your total voltage will go up and the variation in voltage away from this mean value will be becoming much lesser. Okay, so when you have a real machine which has several sets of windings around the periphery, you can expect that the total voltage besides the total voltage going up when you connect them in series, you can also expect that the um, um, ripple or the variation in voltage from the average value will be very less. Okay, so this is something you will have to know. Okay, so with this we will stop for today. I think we may not have time to discuss about the EMF and torque equation. I will take it up in the next class. So if we quickly recall, we have seen what happens in case of what is the use of a commutator and brush arrangement in case of a motor. So it helps in keeping the rotor's magnetic field aligned at a particular angle always irrespective of the rotor rotation. And then we have also seen that there are some parallel and series connections, and we have derived the equivalent circuit and also have seen the effect of the series connection of coils, okay, n-turn coils. Okay, so we will stop with this for today and we will continue in the next class.